Most people will live their entire lives and never feel truly happy or successful. And that's not because they aren't capable. It's not because they're unlucky. It's because they're following the wrong rules. They're chasing things that don't matter, ignoring the things that actually do. And one day, they wake up feeling stuck, confused, and wondering where all the time went. And if you're being honest, maybe you've felt that before. Maybe you've had those quiet moments where you look at your life and think, this can't be it. There has to be more than just surviving, more than just getting through the day, more than just existing. And here's the truth. There is more, but you don't find it by accident. You build it, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one rule at a time. And that's what this is really about. Not motivation that fades in a few hours, not temporary excitement, but principles you can actually live by, rules that shape how you think, how you act, and ultimately who you become. Because everything changes when you start living by the right rules. And the first rule, the one that most people ignore, is being true to yourself. And it sounds simple, almost too simple, but it's one of the hardest things to do in a world that constantly tells you who you should be, how you should look, what success should mean, and what path you should follow. And without even realizing it, you start adjusting, you start filtering yourself, you start becoming a version of you that fits expectations instead of expressing who you really are. And the scary part is the longer you do that, the more you lose yourself and the more disconnected you feel from your own life. Because deep down, you know when you're not being real. You feel it in the decisions you make, in the conversations you have, in the goals you chase that don't even excite you. And that's why authenticity matters so much, because confidence doesn't come from pretending, it comes from alignment, from knowing that the life you're building actually reflects who you are. And that means embracing your strengths, accepting your flaws, and having the courage to choose your own path, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with your choices, not them. And when you start living in alignment with yourself, something shifts. You stop seeking approval, you stop comparing, you start focusing, and that's where real confidence begins. And from there, everything else starts to build, including the way you treat other people. Because the second rule is simple but powerful. Treat people well. And not because you expect something in return, but because it defines the kind of person you are and the kind of life you create. Because every interaction matters, every conversation leaves an impression, and over time, those impressions shape your relationships, your opportunities, your environment. And it's easy to underestimate this. It's easy to think being kind or respectful doesn't really change much, but it does. It compounds, just like money, just like habits. One small act can lead to another, and before you know it, you've built a network of trust, of respect, of people who genuinely want to see you win. And that's something money can't buy. And here's what most people don't realize. Your reputation is one of your most valuable assets, and it's built in the small moments, the way you respond when you're stressed, the way you treat people who can't do anything for you, the way you show up consistently. And when you get this right, doors start opening in ways you didn't expect, not because you forced them open, but because people trust you enough to invite you in. And that leads into the third rule, which is never stop learning. Because the moment you think you know enough is the moment you stop growing. And growth is what keeps you moving forward. It's what keeps you adaptable in a world that's constantly changing. And this isn't just about formal education. It's about curiosity. It's about asking better questions, seeking better answers, exposing yourself to new ideas, new perspectives, new skills. Because every new thing you learn expands what you're capable of. And over time, that expansion becomes your advantage, because your value in the world is directly tied to what you know and how you apply it. And the more you learn, the more options you create for yourself, and the more control you have over your life. And that's something a lot of people overlook. They think success is about luck or connections, but a huge part of it is simply becoming more valuable over time. And that requires consistent learning, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's slow, even when it feels like nothing is changing, because underneath the surface, everything is. And that brings us to one of the most misunderstood rules, which is embracing failure. Because most people are terrified of it. They avoid it at all costs. They see it as something negative, something to be ashamed of. But in reality, failure is one of the most important parts of growth. It's feedback, it's information, it's a signal that something didn't work, and now you have the opportunity to adjust. And the people who succeed aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who learn from it faster, who recover from it quicker, who refuse to let it define them. And if you think about it, every skill you ever developed came from failing at it first. Walking, talking, learning anything new, it all started with mistakes. And yet, as we get older, we start fearing those mistakes instead of using them. And that fear holds us back more than failure ever could, because it stops us from trying, from taking risks, from stepping into opportunities that could change everything. And when you shift your perspective and start seeing failure as part of the process, not the end of it, you become unstoppable, because nothing can really stop you if you're willing to keep going. And that mindset connects directly to the next rule, which is protecting your mindset and staying positive. And not in a fake way, not in a way where you ignore reality or pretend everything is perfect, but in a grounded way where you choose your focus carefully. Because your focus determines your experience. What you pay attention to grows. And if you constantly focus on problems, on negativity, on what's going wrong, that becomes your reality. But if you shift your focus to solutions, to progress, to what you can control, everything starts to feel different. And it doesn't mean challenges disappear. It means you approach them differently, you handle them better, you move through them faster. And one of the most powerful habits you can build here is gratitude, because it forces you to recognize what's already working in your life. And that creates a foundation of stability, of perspective, of strength. And from that place, it's easier to keep moving forward. And speaking of moving forward, that's exactly what the next rule is about, setting clear goals. Because without goals, you're just reacting to life instead of directing it. You're busy but not intentional, active but not progressing. And goals change that. They give your actions meaning. They give your time direction. They turn effort into results. And the key is clarity, knowing exactly what you're working toward and why it matters to you. Because when your goals are clear, your decisions become easier, your priorities become sharper, your focus becomes stronger, and instead of drifting, you start moving with purpose, step by step. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be consistent, small actions repeated over time. That's how everything meaningful is built. And finally, all of this comes together in the last rule, which is living in the present. Because it doesn't matter how ambitious you are, how driven you are, if you're constantly stuck in the past or worried about what might happen next, you'll miss your life completely. And that's something a lot of people struggle with. They either replay past mistakes over and over, or they stress about what might happen next. And in doing that, they lose the only thing that's real, which is this moment right now. And learning to be present doesn't mean you stop planning or stop reflecting. It means you don't let those things take over. You stay grounded. You appreciate where you are while still working toward where you want to be. And that balance is where fulfillment comes from. Because happiness isn't something waiting for you in the future. It's something you create in the present through awareness, through appreciation, through intention. And when you combine all of these rules, being true to yourself, treating people well, never stopping learning, embracing failure, protecting your mindset, setting clear goals, and living in the present, you start to build a life that actually feels meaningful, not just looks good on the outside, but feels right on the inside. And it won't happen overnight. It's not supposed to. This is a process, a journey, something you build day by day, decision by decision. And the most important thing is to start, not tomorrow, not next week, but now. Pick one rule, just one, and focus on applying it today, because small changes done consistently lead to massive results over time. And if this resonated with you, if even one part of this made you think differently, then take that as your sign to do something about it, to stop waiting, to stop overthinking, and start taking control of your life. And if you want more content like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I want you to tell me something. Which one of these rules are you going to start applying today? Drop it in the comments, because that one decision could be the beginning of everything changing for you.